Good morning, it's Rachel here, and I'm going to make you dizzy again and seasick by swinging in my swing seat out under the tree. I get to look up at this in my backyard, and over the fence over there, I don't know if you can see, there's a fence, is a river. So if you might be able to hear a bit of the river in the background. In a couple of weeks we're going to be getting this ugly old deck replaced, and it will extend out to kind of about where I'm swinging, but there will still be a bit of a gap that I can swing in my seat from the tree, which is just a lovely spot in summer. It's just so nice and cool, and I think with the river flowing it creates a bit of a flow of air which helps keep it cool around here, so it's very soothing and relaxing. Anyway, this is the spot that I had a video that I made, I don't know, a couple of years ago, about cognitive dissonance in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the video got featured on Ugly Watchtower's channel, and she was saying that she called it my therapy video, where I said that I had therapy, which is not what I said at all. I said I had cognitive dissonance while I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and of course upon leaving the cognitive dissonance I began to appreciate that the uncomfortable feelings that I had was cognitive dissonance, and of course that cleared up once I left and started thinking clearly. Anyway, I hope you're not feeling too sick. Okay, so yesterday something happened that I had been waiting to happen for a very long time. I'd seen that it had happened to other people, and I was thinking, when will it be my turn? Will I ever get a shot at this? And it happened. So yesterday I was on my computer doing some printing off some stuff for the Glory of Our Leavers Support Trust, in support of them, and my phone rang and it said private caller on the display. And normally I don't answer the phone when it says private caller, because just about always, like 99% of the time, it's someone trying to sell me something or collect money for something, and I find it hard to say no. So the best thing to do is just to not answer it. So anyway, this time I did decide to answer it, and this is what I heard. Hello, you don't know me, but my name is, I won't say the name, and I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And at first I thought, oh, someone's reaching out to me, and I thought, oh, no, this will be witnessing, phone witnessing. And I couldn't believe that the sister, who I know well, and I was friends with her, and she's lovely, actually, she's lovely, she didn't recognise my voice, and we were talking for, it could have been over half an hour, and I have to give her full credit for being friendly, polite and professional in the way she spoke to me, because I was pretty much a nightmare householder. And she didn't lose her cool with me. She didn't become rude, like I've often heard witnesses get rude with Bridget from A to Z or AZ on her YouTube channel, where she records conversations she has when she rings up Kingdom Halls, and quite often they'll be short with her and rude, and sometimes they hang up. But this sister that I spoke to yesterday, she did not do any of that. So I have to give her credit for. I'd like to think that if we swapped positions, that I would be as polite as she was. But anyway, I think towards the end of the conversation, she twigged that she wasn't talking to just any old ordinary member of the public, that I had a bit too much knowledge about how the organisation treats disfellowship people. And she probably started to think, oh, who I don't know. I reckon she's not a stupid person. She probably worked out that it was me in the end. Hi, if you're watching at some point in the future. So, what we talked about at first, like she asked how I was getting on with COVID, and I said I was doing very well, and that we are very lucky in New Zealand. We haven't been hit hard like other places. But I said I did really miss my daughter desperately, because she lives in the South Island of New Zealand, and we've got that stupid Cook Strait in the way. So, and with the COVID, there wasn't, in the height of it, there wasn't movement around the country, and so I didn't get to see my daughter. And given I'd been feeling kind of low this year anyway, with my dad being in hospital and my mother-in-law being in hospital and not being able to visit them and everything with the COVID. Yeah, and then added to that, not seeing my daughter or my son. So that was very hard. So I told her about that because I wanted to stress in my conversation with her how important family connection is to me. And so she asked if I was a Bible reader, if I knew my Bible, and I said, yes, I know my Bible quite well, actually. And then I went on to explain to her that I did have some problems with it, though. Although I could appreciate the values and things of Jesus' teachings for the most part, I couldn't reconcile those with the kinds of morality and behaviour that was acceptable in the Old Testament. And I mentioned, for example, how Jehovah asked his people, the nation of Israel, to stone people to death for what might today seem like minor transgressions. And how would it actually feel to pick up rocks and throw them at a person to kill them? Obviously, in order to kill them, you need to aim for their head, crack their skulls, watch their brains spill out. So how I was trying to ask her what kind of God would require a person to do that when it was within his power to just snap his fingers, so to speak, and kill these people. So I sort of harped on about that a little bit, and about the children that were calling a prophet names. They weren't attacking on him or gang raping him like as some of them in Gibeah did. Yeah, disgusting, eh? So they weren't attacking him, just calling out, saying, "Go up, you baldy." I mean, big deal. And then Jehovah sees fit to send a bear to tear these children to pieces. He could have, if they were so offensive, he could have just snapped his fingers and, didn't have to inflict cruel suffering. Anyway. So she couldn't really give me an answer. She was being very, very polite and saying, oh, yes, I can understand why you'd be, that would seem inconsistent and conflicting. But, there's often it's because we don't understand. We don't, Jehovah would have a reason why he dealt with the nation of Israel the way he did and why it's different with the Christian congregation. But she didn't really offer me what the reason was. I think the reason is that he did it, therefore it must be right, So, but I try to say to her, it leaves a person feeling extremely confused about what justice really is. And I quoted that scripture in Micah about all that God would ask from you is to, I worded it slightly different to their translation. I said to do justice, to love kindness and be humble. But what is justice when the kind of justice that we see in the Old Testament would certainly not be viewed as justice today? It would be seen as inhumane and cruel and just over the top. So anyway, she did her best to overcome my objections. Anyway, I went on to say to her, that it was quite a good time that she called me, because I was right in the process of doing some work for the Gloria Vale Leavers Support Trust. And I asked her if she knew about Gloria Vale, and she said, she's heard of it. But she obviously doesn't watch the news, because a week or so ago it was on the news just about every night with something about it. So I told her what was happening, and down there with the people pretty much living like prisoners and slaves within this organisation, and of course most of them my age and younger were born there. They haven't had any choices, nothing to compare to. That's the world they've been brought up in, and they've had their views about the outside world corrupted by the leadership there. And it's truly, if you want to know more about Gloria Vale, perhaps you can check out an earlier video of mine. I'll talk about it a bit more. So anyway, I was telling her about this, and I see one of the practices that most disturbs me about this group is how they shun people who leave. They have very large families, and then if someone leaves, or if they get asked to leave or told to leave, the family is broken up. And I explain how this is a human rights violation, and they just do not have the right, or should not have the right, to do that. And I said, exclusive brethren do the same thing. And she said, well, I'm not defending, not standing up for Gloria Vale, but there is a Bible reasons why people would be, shunned. Although she didn't seem to like using the word shunned. She did use it, but trying to water it down quite a lot. And so I expressed horror that they also shunned. And I did mention somewhere in the conversation that, I have heard of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses committing suicide because of shunning. And she said, like she was sorry to hear that. So at this point, she hadn't twigged who I was. So I sort of pressed her on the shunning thing. She kept going back to, she mentioned the verses in Corinthians, if a person is a brother, and they, there's all those lists of moral wrongdoings, I can't remember, adultery and stuff like that, in that list of things. And then it says it's to quit mixing in company, or I'm not sure how their Bible says it now, might be stop associating or something like that, and not even eating with such a man. She kept harping on about that, and I was trying to get through to her, what if someone isn't doing those things, but what if they just say they don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore? But in her mind, of course, she believes that everyone who gets disfellowshipped is doing something, committing some moral transgression. Not that shunning someone because of them committing immoral transgressions is good, or something that the Bible says to do, because it doesn't. I tried to say, look, it says there, quit mixing in company or associating. It doesn't mean you have to shun them. It means you won't be hanging out with them all buddy. And she kind of could see that, but yeah. And so what I did, I brought out some verses in Thessalonians. I couldn't remember exactly where it is. I hope it's in Thessalonians. The verses that they use to refer to marking in the congregation. I couldn't use the word marking, because then she'd know that, hey, I knew too much to, to be just a member of the public. So I pointed out there that the same word for stop associating, the Greek word is the same root word as the one used in Corinthians. Yet in those verses, it says to stop associating with a person who's supposedly been marked. And in the next sentence it says, but go on admonishing that one as a brother. So clearly they weren't being instructed to shun that person, but to keep trying to encourage them and get them back into good standing in the flock, and to continue treating them as a brother. And in those verses in Corinthians too, it says if anyone called a brother is doing those wrong things, then you would stop associating with them, not eating a meal with them. So it doesn't say that you should be casting them out of the Christian congregation, which is what Jehovah's Witnesses do. When someone is disfellowshipped, they're no longer considered a brother. They are destined for the fire of Gehenna, figuratively speaking. It's said that if they should die before Armageddon, they will not be resurrected. So they are destined for permanent destruction. They're no longer considered as a Christian or a brother. So Jehovah's Witnesses are really going way, way beyond what the scriptures actually say to do. However, when I mentioned this scripture to her, she said that she should have been able to pinpoint it straight away, but no, witnesses, they don't really know their Bibles very well, do they? And I'm rusty now, been 7 years out, but she said she'd go and look that one up, because hopefully she thought of that one being used for marking. She'd be able to look up marking or something on the Watchtower Library and find it. And I really hope that she goes and has a look at the Kingdom Interlinear and sees that the same root word for stop associating is used in both the verses that they use. Anyway, I pressed her a bit on the shunning, and I asked her, because she explained she had a son he's 11. She's got grown-up daughters who live out of the country, apparently. I think that's what she said. Anyway, I said, what if your son says, he gets older and he says he doesn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness? Will you shun him? And she says, oh, no, it's his choice. And I said, well, what if he is a fully fledged member and then he formally says that he doesn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness? Will you shun him then? Oh, well, no. I'll still have some dealings with him, but it would depend what he's doing. Like suggesting again that if he's, living in a moral life, then she would shun him. However, we know that if you are disassociated, so that's if you say you no longer want to be a Jehovah's Witness, you don't even have to write a letter, you just have to say it, and people witness it. The elders will try to confirm it with you, and then you're considered no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, which is disassociation, and you will be shunned. You don't have to be doing anything immoral. You could be living a perfectly moral life according to their standards, like me, and you are being shunned. And I said to her that I pretty much accused Jehovah's Witnesses of shunning people when they didn't know what they did wrong, if they did anything wrong, in fact. That they would shun them on the say-so of some men, and I meant the elders. I guess I figured if I said elders, she might work out that I was a former member. But she was probably starting to put the clues together at this point. So I said, you just shun people on the say-so of some men, don't you? And she says, oh, no, Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. And I said, well, you do actually. And she said, no, we don't do that. That's not something that we do. And I said, yes, you do. You do that. I can tell you for a fact that you do that. And my voice got low and like that. And she's all of a sudden she says, oh look, I've just got another, I'm sorry, but I have to go, I've got a call coming in, I'm sorry, I have to go. And she just went, and I didn't say goodbye, I just let her go. But that was very interesting. They really, really are in complete denial about the harms, the injustice of the shunning, how it's unscriptural for a start, the extreme to which they take it. They just are clueless. And unfortunately, it's such an unchristian quality, the way that they can forget people. Like this lady, she's absolutely lovely. She really is. And I was friends with her, and I liked her very much when I was a Jehovah's Witness. But she didn't even recognise my voice. I mean, I recognised hers almost straight away. And she didn't recognise my voice at all. After, towards the end, she might have thought, oh, heck, yes. So it really is a case, isn't it? I mean, another thing that I thought is they get the phone numbers out of the phone book. Oh, she knows my last name. So why on earth would they get my name, the name of an apostate, out of the phone book and ring it? It's just... It just demonstrates how easily they forget people, like out of sight, out of mind. When someone's disfellowshipped, they're gone, they don't see them, they don't give them a second thought. How Christian is that? That is so... It's what's the word? Antithesis of love. Yeah, it is. It's so sad. I mean, she's such a nice person, and I know so many Jehovah's Witnesses who are absolutely lovely people, yet this organisation teaches them to withhold love rather than show love. And that's why they're so miserable, because they really are. Most of the Jehovah's Witness women that I knew, particularly around my age, they were all on antidepressants. They were all dealing with mental issues and health issues. They weren't happy people. And I certainly wasn't a happy Jehovah's Witness, that's for sure. Anyway, I thought I'd just share that with you. And as always, whenever you have any dealings with Jehovah's Witnesses, in hindsight you think, oh gosh, I could have handled that better, or I could have said this, or I could have created an opportunity to have further conversations. But unfortunately, I think the way I went with that, that my phone number will be on a list of not to call back again if they do that. So I've probably closed the door on any future discussions. I mean, you end up banging your head on the wall anyway, because they're so irrational and unreasonable, and probably all the more so as they get closer to when they think Armageddon's going to come. They're sort of battening down the hatches, circling the wagons, so to speak, becoming more rigid and staunch in their unreasonableness. So I guess it's pointless anyway having discussions with them, really. While I'm on here, I will tell you a bit about the Gloria Vale Leavers Trust petition. I've spent about 7 hours this week canvassing the business territory in my city with their flyers, talking to business owners about Gloria Vale. And honestly, I have been absolutely blown away by the positive response from people. Compared to when I used to go around with the Watchtower magazines, which wasn't a very fruitful experience, and it used to terrify me going around the businesses. But with this, people were overwhelmingly receptive, and I had about 4 business owners take extra copies of the flyer to share with their staff. They were going to have staff meetings with them about it. In my local council, they took some for the staff room, and several businesses wanted to take a couple of extra flyers to have on their counter or in their waiting rooms. Many of them said that they would sign it. I'm really hoping that their enthusiasm will translate into signatures on the petition, because Gloria Vale is, the Leavers Trust, and the Leavers, they're only a small number and they need all the help they can get to make the government sit up and take notice. So, yeah, I was absolutely blown away by the reception, and, people are thoroughly disgusted that the government has allowed this cult to continue operating in New Zealand. And there were some very intelligent, insightful conversations with people. They realise that this is not a black and white thing. It is very grey, because they understand that we do have religious freedom, but they realise that there must be a line that needs to be drawn in the sand where religious freedom crosses over into abuse. So let's hope that the politicians in this country sit up and take notice and realise that there are thousands of people being affected by this kind of abuse. And the one that bothers me mainly, of course, is the breaking up of families. But it's so uncalled for. It's so unnecessary. Anyway, I'll stop waffling on, and have a great day. And I hope you haven't thrown up because you've been all bleh. And talk to you again soon. Bye.